Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
Today, we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a video about climbing stairs, a book about a fan of Amelia Earhart, and we have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Jason Baum.
Thank you.
No problem. Jason is a chemistry school teacher at Seminole High School.
Yeah, I've worked at Seminole High School now for 23 years.
Wow, nice. Well, today we're going to start off with the video game of the week, and this is going to be a climb.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
Pac-Man.
Yep. And today's video game is Stair Tappers. This game is made by Just Fun Games. Because it's on Roblox, you are able to play it on PC, Mac, Xbox, and even your cell phone. And it is free.
Free! Awesome. I love free games.
Free games are fun. And this is the only game by Just Fun Games.
Oh, only one, huh?
Yeah. So first off, you appear in a match, and you see many platforms randomly placed on the screen going up. There are a lot of other people in there as well. They are jumping from platform to platform, and each one you select moving left or right. They do it by, well, if the platform's to the left of them, then they click the left button on your mouse, or click the left arrow key. Otherwise, you have to press the right click or click on the right arrow key. Well, if you click the wrong key, then you're stunned for 3 seconds. Now remember, this is a race.
Go fast.
Yeah. Don't go too fast and get it wrong. Then the race starts, and you have to go from platform to platform. If you make it to the top, you win. Well, there's different game modes. There's like rivalizing, hardcore, classic, 60 seconds, and race to 200 stairs. My favorite game mode is the rising lava, because if you're too slow, you're taken by the lava. And if you mess up just one time, you're frozen, and the lava will probably get you. My dad liked the hardcore because he can be slower and more accurate, where most players go fast and they get one wrong, and they're stopped where they messed up. Mainly on the first one.
Stairs are not my friend.
Neither are they mine. But this is a simple game with smooth music playing in the background. There's not much to it, but it's loads of fun to play it again and again. I'm really good at it because I am experienced with playing beat games. So this is like a beat game with only 2 keys, so easy peasy.
Easy squeezy.
Yeah. Well, I give Stair Tappers 10 out of 10 stars because even though it's a lot of fun at first, it does kind of get repetitive. I did enjoy like getting over 60 times more speed than my dad, though.
Nice.
And now it's time for the book of the week, The Amelia 6. This book was written by Kristen L. Gray. Let me to the back of the book. In fact, Jason, would you like to do the honors?
Certainly. Uh-oh, here we go. All right. So, I leaned so close that my breath fogged up the glass. The leather straps looked old and cracked. My brain fired a million neurons. I was really staring at Amelia Earhart's goggles, the one she wore her solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Wow, read this book to find out.
Yeah. So, first off, this is not an AR book. Well, I got this book for my book fair at my school. And this is about a girl named Millie and her trip to Amelia Earhart's birth home place for a fun sleepover and a scavenger hunt. So the book starts off with Millie, an 11-year-old girl, her dad in the front seat, and Kate, a random truck driver that Millie knew, and asked her to drive in this blizzard to get to Amelia's birthplace. Well, they were talking about where they were going and how Millie was lucky because she was there because Millie's goggles were being transported to a museum in 2 days at the end of their trip. So they get there, and Millie says goodbye to Kate and her dad, and then she went on into Amelia's birthplace in Atchison, Kansas. Well, she's welcomed in by the owner of the place, Birdie, and a few other 11 to 13-year-old girls that were also going to be on the trip. So everything went well the first night, and they had a premium dinner and had their phones taken away for the trip. Next, at night, Millie was confused where she was and tried to look for a room and stumbled into a room with a glass case with Amelia's goggles in them. Then, well, I can't tell you the book because I want you to read the book for yourselves.
Sounds good. Interesting.
Well, I give The Amelia 6 by Kristen L. Gray 10 out of 10 stars because I really like this book, and I think anyone who likes a good mystery should read this book. But I will tell you, the end gets tough for the girls.
Uh-oh.
The Tiberiusshow would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator rights. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
And now it's time for our interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Jason Bound.
Thank you.
Jason is a chemistry school teacher at Seminole High School.
Yep. I hope I make an amazing impression here.
No problem. So first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
It's pretty interesting to see how you do interviews, and I like your book review and your game review.
Sweet. Okay, so you were listed as a chemistry school teacher. Now, I know what a school teacher is, but for my listeners that don't know, what is chemistry?
Chemistry is how the chemicals of the world interact, and everything's made of chemicals, elements. So it's a lot of how the whole world works.
Yeah. Are atoms chemicals?
Yes, atoms are of an element, which are then all building up to chemicals, yes.
Huh, cool. So it's like science class, basically?
It is a science class. There are lots of sciences, chemistry being one of them. Biology and physics are another of the more common ones.
Okay. So what got you interested in chemistry?
I don't know. I guess middle school was my first real experience with chemistry. And it was pretty interesting because I had a couple of science teachers, and I didn't really know a lot about it, but I thought it was really cool at the time because they would play pranks on one another. And I thought that was so cool that a teacher could play pranks and be cool at the time. But then I in the class, they started teaching basic level chemistry information, how elements and common reactions and things like that happened. And I thought that stuff was pretty interesting, and the little experiments we did at the time were kind of fun. And so that kind of got my interest in the sciences. But I didn't decide to become a chemistry teacher until I took chemistry in high school. And I liked my chemistry teacher at the time, too, Miss Rudder. And, not many people at that age say, hey, I want to be, and from then on, here I am 30-something years from when I had that class, and I am a chemistry teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a chemistry teacher?
That should be a straightforward question, but I would say about 25 years. I graduated in December of 97 from UCF, and that's the middle of the school year. I assume you know that. And so I got a job as a long-term sub. With a teacher that was out on maternity leave.
Okay.
And I taught all the classes for the rest of that school year, or almost the rest of the school year, until she came back. And then that next year they hired me. And I took her position basically because she was leaving to go home with her husband to Kansas, where they grew up. And at the end of that year, there was a lower enrollment in chemistry class, and being the new person in the school, they let me go. Makes sense. They later on did have more enrollment and opened up the position, but what I didn't really appreciate is they didn't even bother to interview me again for my own previous position. So I went 2 years without a contract, is what they call it when you're the official teacher for the year. They call it a contract position. And so that's 2 years of doing basically the same teacher's job, because I was doing other long-term sub-positions for a maternity leave, a disability leave, and someone that just quit in the 3rd week of school I took over for. But none of that counts towards my retirement. So officially to the county school system, I only have 23 years, but those 2 extra years of doing long-term subs should make it 25, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm sure that was a long-winded explanation for you, but...
Oh, yeah, I understand. So when did you know that you wanted to get into teaching? Was there just a moment that you remember that it just clicked?
Well, as far as teaching chemistry, it was when I had it in high school. But as far as teaching, when I was even younger than you were, little kid in elementary school, I kind of always wanted to be a teacher of some sort. I wanted to do things that I liked doing and was good at, and I was very athletic as a kid and wanted to do maybe like be a PE or gym teacher when I was young. I picked up math really easy, basic math, so I thought about being a math teacher. I liked drawing and doing art and painting and things, so I thought about being an art teacher. But it wasn't until middle school when I experienced some science, and then when I had chemistry in high school, that I decided chemistry teacher. That's what I want.
Nice. So what really drives your passion to this type of work every day?
Well, I do enjoy the material, but I should say, as an educator, I'm touching students' lives, and that is a part of it. When you see them light up at like the understanding of the concept that you're talking about, that does have a lot of joy in me. That, oh, great that they got it. But the better capture is if someone comes back later on to tell you that they enjoyed your class, or that they remember learning something that they used later on, or that they even got so influenced that they took classes or became a chemistry teacher or something that used chemistry, or doctor or something later on, where that's really the impression that gets to you, that you had that big of an impact on them that they want to come back and later and appreciate it.
Wow. Now, chemistry is called like the hardest science. So does that mean you work with older kids, or are older kids easier or harder to work with?
Well, by the time you get into a chemistry class, you're usually in mostly sophomores are what I teach, but there are several juniors in chemistry classes. Occasionally you'll have a freshman or a senior too. But I guess hard depends on your own, the type of student and your own learning styles. The other maths maybe, sciences maybe have more math involved with them, and they might be harder. But then other ones, chemistry typically is harder because it's very abstract. You can't visualize the atoms because they're so small. That's what makes it difficult for a lot of students.
Okay. Now, what's the best part about being a chemistry teacher?
Lots of things. I get to play with chemicals and make fun experiments for the kids. That's always fun.
Do you get to blow stuff up?
Occasionally. Yeah, that's a small part of chemistry, but that is what gets the kids interested in, and it's fun. But for safety reasons, we can't have the kids do explosions because it's just not safe.
Only teachers.
Right.
So, how much do you get to teach the way you want? Or do you have to follow instructions in a book?
Well, it's becoming more and more rigid these days with a lot more of the legislative restrictions. When I started teaching some 25 years ago, you just had a book and you had to teach these topics, and then you could take as long as you want with one and another, as long as you eventually, over the course of the year, taught all the topics. Now, within each quarter, you have to cover certain topics, and they really prefer you to do them in a specific order, which I tend to bend a little bit. But it's becoming more and more rigid that they want every teacher to pretty much teach the same way, so when students switch classes, that they'll all be in pace with one another.
Okay. So what's the hardest part about being a chemistry teacher?
A big thing with teachers in general is classroom management and keeping up with the material and the so much hours in putting in planning and grading. With the years that I've had, a lot of that planning and that kind of material is pretty much just natural to me now. It still takes a lot of time to grade. But as far
Grading is one of the most harder things.
yeah, tedious too. But as far as for chemistry, there's a lot of material, different topics and material you need to know, and some of that could be difficult. I usually have known for a pretty good memory, so I'm pretty good with just remembering and writing the stuff up on the board and covering it pretty easily.
Nice. Okay. Now, I see lots of movies about teachers and the kids do crazy stuff that get them in trouble. Does that happen in real life?
Very little, no. The TV shows of chemistry ones where they have all these bubbling flasks and jars and stuff and everything going on and things blow up and stuff and they're foamed up. That rarely happens in a real classroom. Huh? Yeah.
When you say really, what's the percentage?
Maybe 5% of what they show. It's a really low percentage. It's more the descriptive and boring things. I try to do more fun labs, and I think a lot of my students would agree that they do enjoy labs. I actually did a lab today, so that was pretty cool.
Labs every Wednesday?
No, it's not every Wednesday. Although I usually do in a grading quarter. I usually end up doing about 4 labs, so it's about every couple weeks. But just the way the schedule was, I did one once per week the last 3 weeks, including this week. And the next couple weeks, we won't have any, though.
That makes sense. So, who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
I guess I'd have to give credit to my chemistry teacher when I was in high school, Marlene Rudder. I'm not sure if she'll ever hear this, but props to her. Because she made it still fun, but she was a serious teacher, and I enjoyed the class, and she challenged me here and there and had me do a little extra just to keep me involved in the class because I picked up chemistry pretty well. But I guess that would be my biggest influence there.
Okay. Now, there are lots of people that can teach through videos on the internet. Do you think teaching in the classroom is better, and why?
Oh, definitely. Couple of years ago when the pandemic was really full force, everything pretty much had to be done through online. And there were so many questions students had on how does this work or what did you do in this situation or is this doing it right? And it's so much more difficult to answer questions even if you're live through video streaming, let alone if it's just a pre-taped video and then you're trying to learn it through that. But in the classroom, you can watch, if a good teacher, after some experience, can watch their eyes and kind of tell, okay, they're a little bit like glazed over, they must be bored, or they are confused, and you can tell from their expressions. And then you're like, okay, well, let me explain this a little bit more. Let me cover the common mistakes I see and that kind of thing. And then if you have the chance, then you can individually ask questions or go around to check on the students to make sure that they're understanding it properly. Whereas on a video, all of that personal connection and making sure the individual is doing okay just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like peace. So, what advice would you give to my listeners if they wanted to grow up and be a chemistry teacher?
It's not that easy to finish your degree and get into, but teaching is definitely rewarding. It's becoming a lot more restrictive these days, so sometimes it might not be the best option because they're going into like a lab. You can get a lot more pay than what we get as a teacher. So if you're looking for pay, you probably don't want to go into teaching. But as the profession is proud of, you get all the summers off and the same vacations and stuff that you enjoy as a student. So that's kind of a nice thing, but we don't get paid over the summer, so that's unfortunate.
Sad.
And a lot of teachers have second jobs to try to compensate for the lower pay. But keep trying at it. Go through, volunteer into a classroom, and I really got a feel for teaching when I did my internship, which is near the end of your college degree, where you kind of take over pieces of the teacher's classroom of another teacher that's the supervising teacher. It's actually her or him, their room. And then you kind of practice doing it. And that gives you a really good impression of how to handle the students, what to do for planning, what to do for grading, whether you took enough time, whether you cover things too fast, things like that. The internship is what you really get the good experience for.
Okay. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
Wow. Okay. The best advice.
And also, who gave that advice?
I guess just kind of hang in there and just keep going through. Whenever you're sort of down because the students weren't getting it, or there's other external pressures, legislation going that you're not agreeing with, a lot of things cycle around. So if you just kind of keep going through it, you'll hit some good points and just try to remember those. And I'm not sure who specifically said, but some of my earlier mentoring teachers that were in teaching when I started off were probably some of those that I remember the good advice from.
Nice. So what was the very first job that you ever had?
My first job was as a caddy on a golf course, actually. My summer between my junior and senior year. I was this little thing and carrying these heavy golf bags I could only carry one at a time. It was rough work, but then by the end of the summer, I built some muscles up and I could carry a couple bags. Did that for a couple summers, nice. And then I got only a couple other jobs before I started teaching. So I haven't really had a whole lot of different jobs.
Nice. So was there anything you learned from that job that helped you to be a better teacher in high school?
From my first job, probably not. But I know from my second job was as a cashier and stock person in a electronics store. We had to dress professional, which is part of what we should be doing as a teacher. I had to actually wear a tie and a dress shirt and slacks and stuff for that job, which is kind of unusual these days. And in teaching, you have to look professional, but no longer required to have a tie.
Yeah, lucky you.
Yeah, I'm not really enjoying the tie days anymore.
Well, what message do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Whew, that's a pretty good question. I would have to say, chemistry is not really everyday knowledge that everyone needs. And I think a lot of my students would appreciate, when am I ever going to use this in life? Okay, yeah. A lot of people won't. But it is in everyday life. The food you eat, the nutrition, that's all chemistry.
And math.
And I think, there's math involved. Good, yeah. I think what I try to get my students, and generally is just to be a better student, but when they look at ingredients, they understand a little bit more of what chemicals and things that people are putting in there, and maybe which the trend has been to get more natural. And like nutrition, knowing things that are good for you and how much and what they do for you, that you need some potassium and sodium and these other chemicals to make your body function, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, what's the craziest thing that's happened while you were doing your passion?
Craziest things. I know, unfortunately, some students that weren't doing the safety precautions as they were supposed to, wearing goggles and such. The experiment got a little out of hand and they weren't prepared, and so they had to go to the emergency eye wash and take care of things. But luckily everyone was okay. So
Did they get a detention?
no, because they didn't cause an accident on purpose, and they learned their lesson after that they needed to wear their goggles and be more prepared for things. I know one other incident where we were lighting a Bunsen burner, and I had mentioned to be aware of this, but they didn't. And when they first lit the Bunsen burner, it had a very large flame, which is something that I mentioned, but they didn't have the awareness that it was right below a poster that was on the wall, and they caught the poster on fire, which started to then burn up through the wall. So I ran over really quick, and what was silly was I took their lab papers, which are paper, and used them to slap out the fire, which worked. I just didn't want to use my bare hands, and it was still a small enough fire that even smothering it with paper would put it out. So there can be mistakes. You just gotta roll with the punches, and
I'm sure the class
go with the
next
excitement.
to you was terrified.
They were a little bit in shock and not knowing what to do, and that's when then you got to really kick in and just your natural reflexes to just go and handle things.
Towel.
And I'm usually pretty good in emergency. Yeah, get like a wet towel. Yeah. That would be a good thing.
Nice. So, what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Biggest mistake. I'm not sure if it's some of my biggest mistakes, but I know a big one a couple years ago. I had my papers that I was grading, tests, big grade. I was grading them. I set them aside to get a snack and to just kind of take my mind off to get reset. And my puppies got a hold of him, brought him out to the backyard, and chewed him up. So just like the dog ate my homework, well, on the other side of things, the dog ate my tests for grading. So I ended up trying to piece it together the best I could and just gave points to the students where I couldn't tell what their answer was, and just give them the benefit of the doubt because it was my mistake in letting my dogs get a hold of the papers.
Yeah. That's actually hilarious.
It is a little funny now. Yeah, I can look back on it. At the time, I was freaking out, but I can look back at it now and kind of laugh at it, yeah.
No, what you should have done is cage them up and not give them food for a day. But
I actually handed the papers back to my students with chew marks and stuff on them and apologized over and over again. They kind of thought it was funny, too.
So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I do enjoy video games on my phone. I watch a lot of TV. A hobby I have is actually woodworking. I like to build stuff out of wood when I have the spare time. I occasionally play some board games, which I know is where we got all connected. Yeah.
Well, I did meet you at a board game party, and I love board games as well. But what's your favorite board game?
I think right now my favorite one is called Spirit Island.
Ooh.
They've had a few expansions over the years, and I just ordered the latest one. It'll come in another year or so because it's like that early of development.
Wow.
But you have these island spirits that you try to work with, and then there's these natives on the land, and then there's these invading colonists, and you're trying to get rid of all the colonists so that it's just your native people with your spirits to cover them.
Nice. So what's your favorite book to read?
Unfortunately, I don't find a whole lot of time to read lately, but my favorite author is Ray Bradbury, and probably my favorite book of his is one called The Illustrated Man. It goes through kind of a connected storyline of this guy in a like traveling circus kind of thing, and he has a bunch of tattoos on him, and they're magical tattoos, and each tattoo moves and tells a story.
Whoa.
Yeah, and each story is like a short story within the novel, and then it kind of has a twist ending that I don't want to give away, so you'll have to read it, but it's pretty interesting, and a lot of his stories have to do with technology and future. And I think you might really be interested in them. And I got interested in that when I was in middle school myself when I had to read it.
Huh. Okay. Now can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid show, but the one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
A story that I'm not supposed to tell you about.
But you can tell me.
I suppose one thing, when I was in college, I had joined a fraternity, and we were doing a camping trip, and it was at the Wekiva State Forest, local here, and it was late at night, and it started raining, and we had a little campsite where the fraternity brothers were sitting, and another little campsite where the initiates that were trying to become the full-fledged fraternity brothers in, and we were trying to spy on one another. And so I thought I saw one of the smaller fraternity brothers spying on our camp. So I was going to go up and grab him and take a hostage and try to, interrogate him or something like that. It turned out it was a much bigger fraternity brother, but in the dark I couldn't tell. So I started chasing him, and it started raining, and it was like 12:30 at night. And the wet leaves on the ground, I kind of slipped, and I ran smack into a tree. And if you've seen like cartoons where they hit like a pole or something, and one arm and leg on each side and just slide down, that's exactly what happened. I cut open my eyebrow, and it was bleeding heavily, and my collarbone, and it was bleeding, and I had to go to the hospital for stitches. But afterwards, it was all in fun and no major harm. I mean, at the time, but later on, everything's fine. So,
Good.
It was interesting.
Did your face full flesh?
It was kind of pale from just the whole experience and
goodness.
stuff, but yeah, it was a little scary. And it took a surprisingly long amount in the emergency room before they got to me and stitched me up. Yeah.
Huh. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
I'm not really sure. I'm a department chair at my school. I've been that for 17 years. I don't know. I have a nice fancy car just to make my fun driving around.
Well, what type of car do you have?
It's a older Camaro, a 2002 Camaro, and it's actually the 35th anniversary edition, which it's a convertible. So the 35th anniversary edition has a specific paint job, and the convertible, the top goes down. They only made a certain number of them.
Wow.
So it's
Rare.
pretty fancy, yeah. But it's 21 years old and 150,000 miles, so it's had some wear and tear. But
Whoa.
I definitely enjoy driving it. Yeah,
That's a lot of miles.
yeah.
Well, do you have a Facebook or website that my listeners don't want to follow you?
No, I'm pretty low key on the internet.
Low.
Yeah, I don't have. I'm on an anonymous name on Facebook, so you wouldn't be able to find me, and I only friend a few friends that I really know. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, what's that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Talked about my hobby a little bit, about woodworking. Maybe something that, like, what have I built woodworking?
Well, what have you built in woodworking?
Over the years, a lot of things. I actually still have one of my first creations when I was in 7th grade. We made a little sign that we carved into it, "Home Sweet Home," and I have that over my fireplace at home. But I've made several TV stands just to make specific specifications for the different TVs over the years for my parents and myself. I've made
One
a
that
computer
has,
desk.
a little open.
Yeah, some drawers and doors in it for videos and stuff like that. Let's see, I've not really woodworking, but I built my stone mailbox. I've redid my bathroom, like changed walls and everything, and
Whoa.
yeah, doing some trade work like that, where like carpentry and woodworking or plumbing or electrical, anything like that. If you really learn a little bit about one of those areas, it can save yourself a lot of money instead of hiring people. And with YouTube these days, like, you can really Save
your
yourself
hands
some
dirty.
money. Yeah, if you're able to pick up on stuff and do it yourself and try. Now, there's a couple times I've messed up and had to call professionals, or it's definitely looked too complicated and get the professional to do it. But I like to get hands-on stuff. That's part of the woodworking enjoyment is doing hands-on. So and it saves me a lot of money as a teacher. If I can cut a corner somewhere and save some money, that's definitely something I want to try.
Nice. Well, thank you, Jason, for being my special guest. Can you
No
stick
problem.
around for Math Corners?
Definitely, I love math.
Sweet.
Tiberius's favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Thank you, Jason, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to do some more multi-step word problems.
Whoa.
My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve. Today, we're going to talk about doing chemistry.
All right.
Okay. Well, a cylinder of argon gas contains 50 liters of argon at 18.4 atm and 127 Celsius. How many moles of argon are in the cylinder?
Whoa.
What?
Do you expect me to know that off my head?
No. But, well, first, if this is a real world question, I would have absolutely no idea. I'm not sure what argon gas is or what 18.4 ATMs have to do with it. I thought ATMs are what gives you cash at the bank when you run out of money. But my dad said we would try it anyway.
Okay. I mean, I could do it for you if you want and explain it.
I mean, you can if you want to.
Okay.
But I'll do it instead.
All right.
So to solve this first, you have to look at some formulas. There's a gas law equation for the measurement of moles.
Right.
I don't think we're talking about the ones running around at the golf course, but...
Nope. Not the ones on your face either.
Yeah. Well, the formula is the number of moles of gas equals pressure times volume divided by the gas constant times absolute temperature.
Yes.
So first you have to convert the temperature to Kelvin.
Correct.
That is T equals Celsius plus 273. Well, that's easy. 127 plus 273 is 400 Kelvin. So I have no idea what a Kelvin is, but let's just go with it. Now, you take the pressure at 18.4 atm and times that by the 50 liters, and that gives you 920.
Right.
Now, you have to times the gas constant, which my dad says is 0.08 by the 400 Kelvin, and that gives you 32. And finally, you take the 920 and divide it by the 32. And let's see, I really don't love long division, but you get a 2, an 8, and let's see, a 7, and a 5. Well, then you gotta check the decimal place, and you get 28.75 moles. That was like some extreme level of algebra.
It was. Very good.
Thank you. So, Jason, when I get to be old enough to do chemistry, will that kind of problem seem easy to me? Because it seems crazy hard right now.
No, that ideal gas law, which that was, is a fairly difficult problem. So that's good that you challenged yourself and did it. Good job.
Thank you. Now, Jason, my teacher said that I would use math every day. Do you use math outside the classroom?
I sometimes do. If I'm trying to figure out how much I'm going to pay for groceries, I try to do some rough math on adding it up. If I'm trying to budget to save up to buy something, how much did I spend on gas this week? How much do I need to do for meals? That kind of thing. And like I'm trying to plan to do a vacation in the summer, so I've got to figure out, okay, airfare up north to visit my family, and then if I want to rent a car, and then I want to do this, I got to plan out how much money each week I have to save up. So yeah, you do math.
It's a whole lot of math, though. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for your help with Math Corners.
Sure.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and ability. This week, we're going to talk about integrity. For me, I think integrity is doing what is right even when no one else is looking. The qualities of integrity is honesty, sincerity, truthfulness, and fairness. Well, as you might know, that my dad and I are very competitive in video games. We play lots of different video games. Well, for the show, we play video games and we compete. We were trying a new game and it was neck and neck. And I had just started a little bit before him, so I was a good 7 levels ahead of by the time it was time for bed. We both turned off the game, and then I went to bed in school the next day. When I got back, my dad was very busy with work, so I just got on the game and beat 3 more levels to get a rebirth, and then I did a little bit 5 more. It was fun, but it wasn't fair. Then my dad drove us home, and we talked about playing the game together to see who was going to be the best. I admitted to playing a little, so I told him he could have 10 minutes to catch up, and that would be fair. That was almost the exact time that I played. Well, he turned on his game, and he was at the same level as the day before, but he already had another rebirth. He had played while I was at school. I told him that was cheating, that was not integrity. But he explained that he stopped at the same point in the game to make it fair, but we had both played without the other. Now, how will we find out who's the best? I guess we should have waited to be fair to each other.
So, although each of you played separately, that you got to the same point, and that was kind of the trying to pull it together to be fair. Since you had gone a little bit ahead of him, and then he then caught up to you, that's kind of just trying to put everyone in the same ballpark and trying to make it back to the even level again. So I think there was a certain degree of fairness there in trying to keep both people on the same level. Now, it depends on how you're competing, whether playing separately
who would get the
was
rebirth first.
Right, whether that was a fair aspect or not. As far as teaching integrity is a huge part of teaching. You want your teacher to be fair for all the students. You don't want to favor any one student over another. So that is a huge part of teaching. And I like to feel that I am fair and equal to all of my students, and I hope they would agree with that. So I think integrity is a very important factor, especially in my life as a teacher.
Okay. Well, we should always try and rely strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Yes, definitely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Jason Bound for being on my show.
Thank you.
No problem.
And thank you for having me.
No problem. It's been so much fun talking with you today. I think we learned a lot about what it's like to be a chemistry teacher working with kids every day.
It's challenging every day, but it's definitely rewarding when you hit your mark and teach them something new and they get it.
Nice. Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and subscribe. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy!
Do it!